Oda is very tricky, very sneaky sometimes, and I don't think a lot of people caught this at all. If you did, then I tip my non-existent fedora to you, for real. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about Sanji's second nerf.
Huh? Wake up!
We're here. Wait, what? Hold on. Sanji, a second nerf? Sanji, double nerf? ¿Por qué? Mi amigo Cole, what is going on? How could there be another second nerf for my man, Black Leg, Vince Smoke, Sanji? Now, some cats did catch this, and good on them. And I'm doing this video in case you didn't catch it. But even for the folks that did catch this, there is, without a doubt, a Dark Souls invisible wall that you didn't catch. People, Sanji's double nerf. Now, most folks understand the deal with Sanji's first nerf during his fight against Queen the Plague. Okay, well, I say most folks, but that's the problem. I guess most folks. There are some people that actually believe that Sanji destroying his own raid suit wasn't a nerf in chapter 1031, which honestly blows me away. And not in the way I'd rather prefer, to be quite honest with you. So let's address that first nerf first, because I can understand people's logic as to why they believe that Sanji destroying his own raid suit is not a nerf. And the main issue here would be how the raid suit powers somewhat overlap with Sanji's own powers. So, first of all, the flotation devices, right? Sanji can fly in midair using Germa tech. This overlaps with Sanji's skywalk, so why bother with the flotation devices at all if the man can already fly? That's the first thing. The second thing would be the acceleration devices on Sanji's heels. Sanji can move very swiftly with the boosters on his heels, and according to the anime, he can even go at light speed with the acceleration devices. Plus, with the boosters, you do have extra kicking power. Now this overlaps because with Sanji's already nasty speed, we've seen him move so fast, well, we actually, we can't even see him. That's how fast a man moves at times. We saw in chapter 1034, during the Queen fight, he moved so fast, Queen could even see him. And we also know this happened when he blitzed Oven in Whole Cake Island, where no one but Pudding could see him save Chiffon, despite an entire crowd of people watching this go down. Furthermore, because Sanji got an enhanced bone structure because of his Germa transformation and his exoskeleton, his kicks have also gotten stronger. So this makes the acceleration devices somewhat pointless in folks' minds. And then the third thing would be the raid suit defense. The raid suit is made out of some sort of special material that is extremely tough. That's T-U-F-F, tough. Against Page 1, Sanji got thrown through a bunch of buildings and did not even feel that much damage at all. Plus, the cape of the raid suit does act like another layer of defense. Like a shield, if you would. And in the anime, they make the thing to a goddamn force field. A force field. Finally, the raid suit does have natural fire resistance. So this overlaps with Sanji's new exoskeleton body, where Sanji has much stronger natural defense, and on top of that, a degree of regeneration. So Sanji was able to instinctively fix his bones after Queen's Brachiocoelus in chapter 1028, and Queen's sword shattered against his face and neck. So Sanji getting these defensive buffs and this regen buff in some respects does make the raid suit defense kind of pointless. And then Sanji can already control fire at will, so the fire resistance also seems somewhat pointless as well. So these are all the abilities that overlap when it comes to the raid suit ability and Sanji's own natural abilities. But to be quite frank, it doesn't make much sense to me to say that they aren't nerfs when Sanji destroys the raid suit. Each of these abilities of the raid suit can easily multiply the abilities that Sanji innately has. That's why it's so weird. So for example, using Skywalk is a skill/technique that requires stamina to use. With the flotation devices, he doesn't have to worry about stamina at all. At all, he can just fold his arms and float in place in midair. And that's it. Plus, in theory, there would be ways to combine his Skywalk with the flotation devices. The same concept would also apply for his boosters on his heels. Moving at high speeds, using less stamina, and finding a way to combine his skills on top of his new tech for even new, better skills. Now you would say, okay, well that sounds kind of weird, but hold on now, hold up, whoa, time out.
Remember,
This is something very similar to what Rob Gucci does. Rob Lucci has combined his Geppo, his Skywalk, with his Soru, his shave, and he made a technique called Kamisari, Razor, where he moves around like a lightning bolt. So combining skills with skills or skills with tech is very possible. We've seen before in the past. In theory, it's also possible for Sanji to do something very similar with the Raid suit on top of his own skills. It's part of the reason why I believe that the Raid suit one day will come back, potentially sooner rather than later. And also, the stamina aspect does matter. Queen himself mentioned this in chapter 1034 when Sanji vanishes. He says the moment he's visible again is the moment he's out of stamina. So if Sanji had kept the Raid suit, using the boosters on his heels from the Raid suit uses far less stamina to perform the same feats or even better feats than we've seen Sanji do so far in terms of speed. And then also, by default, his kicking power still goes up because they are, once again, boosters. They are acceleration devices. That doesn't change with his new exoskeleton. We just stack them together. So Sanji does miss out on both speed and power without the Raid suit. On top of that, the defense of the Raid suit, on top of the exoskeleton, would make this man a sentient tank. Honest to God. Think about when King dive bombed Sanji after he saved Momonosuke. Sanji walked out of that clean, squeaky clean, Mr. Clean. Especially in the anime, 100% clean, nothing. And he used no cape, which again does add another layer of defense on top of the main body of the Raid suit. So again, if you stack that with his exoskeleton and the regen that his body has to a degree now, he's the tankiest dude in the crew easily. Emphasis on easily. That's how busted the defense is of the Raid suit. So essentially, it's like an RPG or a JRPG game where you do have your base stats, but as you progress through the story, you do get new equipment, and with that new equipment, you improve your stats. You stack, you buff your stats. Just like how in real time right now, you can smash the like button and you can buff the stats of this video. On top of that, you can subscribe and click on the bell to join the notification squad and get even further buffs and enhancements on top of that.
Lovely.
And I highly recommend that you do that. But the thing here is this though. Folks also pointed Ifrit Jambe, the new souped up devil leg that Sanji's got. But the thing about it is that that's an ability outside of the Raid suit abilities. So the Ifrit Jambe would have happened with or without it, because it's completely outside of the paradigm of the Raid suit. But keep in mind that there was never a single time that Sanji used his devil leg with his Raid suit. That could be because of the natural fire resistance of the Raid suit. Sanji's still trying to work out how to use the Raid suit, right? Or Oda purposefully setting it up that way. The list of reasons could go on and on, but it flat out never happened. If you combine the Ifrit Jambe with the Raid suit acceleration devices, then I think without a doubt, Sanji also has even more powerful kicks. And of course, outside of all of this, is the fact that Sanji can't go invisible anymore, allegedly. But losing it is a nerf. Even if you view the overlapping abilities as unnecessary, there's still a nerf because they still would improve the overall stats of Sanji. On top of all of this, even if you don't believe me, look what Sanji said himself. Sanji himself admits that with the Raid suit, he would roll through Queen. In chapter 1031, tell me, Luffy, would you prefer the regular flesh and blood me, who turns into a helpless wreck whenever I face an opponent who's a woman, or a cruel, cold, emotionless warrior of science, who can crush even monsters like him as long as you give me the order, standing in front of Queen the Plague? Is Sanji being hyperbolic? Probably. After all, I don't even think an admiral could roll through Queen the Plague. No, hell no. But I would agree with that line of thought, where the fight would be easier for Sanji if he kept his raid suit. 100%. So now that we've cleared up the first nerf, let's get into the second nerf. And again, this just shows how sneaky Oda can be sometimes, man. This is why when it comes to One Piece, unlike many other shonens, both past and present, outside of Hunter x Hunter, of course, godlike series, you gotta be on your toes all the time. Because after Sanji defeated Queen and he collapsed, we don't see Sanji's face. In the color cover of chapter 1036, we also don't see Sanji's face. And I say all of this as number one, build up and suspense, of course. Yes, suspense, 1. 2, when we do see Sanji's face later on in the same chapter, 1036, we do see his eyebrow, and the eyebrow has actually returned to its original position. Nani? Nani? Nandato? That's right. This could be Oda slipping up, and it could be a drawing mistake on Oda's part. That's very possible. That's very possible. But let's roll with this for a second. Yeah, let's follow this trend here, okay? On page 16 in the official Viz release of the chapter 1036, when you zoom in on the panel of Sanji being treated and taken care of by the girls, Sanji's eyebrow is back to how it was before chapter 1031. During that same chapter, Sanji's eyebrow was just like his brother's eyebrow, and his body had stopped itching and his transformation was seemingly over. The assumption is that Sanji's body, after going through its transformation, had completely awakened like his brother's, and that eyebrow change was the visual notation for that. But now that we've seen Sanji's eyebrow shift back to how it looks before Sanji was awakening, it seems to be that something about his awakening is either incomplete, so he lost the ability of his exoskeleton, or it's an activated ability, meaning that Sanji does not have a passive exoskeleton. In order for Sanji to use his exoskeleton from now on, he has to activate it at will, off and on, like Haki or a zone different power. If this is the case, then this is also another nerf, since it being a passive buff is better than an active buff. I think that's absolutely the case here. To be fair, it's not necessarily that big of a deal here, as long as his exoskeleton can last for an entire fight. But the main idea here, the main issue here would be stamina depletion. Active abilities like Haki or Duff Roots take up stamina every time they're utilized. So in theory, right now, because Sanji's knocked out and he's being treated, his exoskeleton is not active. This is the line of thought that most folks who caught this detail think that's what it means.
Hello, Peter.
But again, Oda is sneaky. Oda is very crafty sometimes. You gotta be on your toes. Like, Oda sometimes is the IRL Hisoka.
What's wrong with you?
If Hogwarts was real, Oda would be immediately put into House Slytherin. That's right, immediately. The Sorting Hat does not even have to touch his head. And I'm gonna go back to that pesky word, allegedly. You see, you have to remember when Sanji first activated his exoskeleton in chapter 1028. Sanji's eyebrows were the same as they usually were, but the transformation was still ongoing. But how exactly was the transformation still ongoing when Sanji took the Brachiocoilus, looked like a zombie, and then regenerated from that? Or when Queen's sword shattered against Sanji's body? And the biggest hint, ultimately, That's right.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. Oh. In the same chapter where Sanji's body was done transforming, right before he gives Queen the Hell's Memory, Sanji disappears from Queen's vision with the shh sound effect. Sanji does something allegedly similar in chapter 1034, but this time the sound effect is a the difference in the suffix notation, I think, is absolutely pivotal, because the only time we ever hear the sh suffix when someone is moving or disappears is when someone is going invisible. Sanji with the raid suit, shh. City of the Rain, shh. Even Queen the Plague himself in chapter 1034 when he goes invis, shh. That's right. I think ultimately that Sanji can still go invisible, but isn't aware he can still do it. Just how his brothers can still use their unique abilities without their raid suits. The main example being Niji and his Henry Needle. Sanji can do something similar, but it might be an activation ability for whatever reason. So Sanji, even though he's knocked out right now, I think there's a good chance where his exoskeleton is still active, because that is a passive, permanent change to his natural bone structure. Unless Sanji is Kimimaru, to where every time his eyebrows change, he gains new bones. I mean, that could be the case, but that's kind of wild. That's kind of wild. So it's still a nerf regardless, but the nerf is for what exactly? And I think ultimately it's a nerf for something that Sanji himself isn't even aware of. The invisibility that he has still retained after the completed Germa transformation. Therefore, honestly, even though it's an immediate nerf, because he beat Queen without even understanding what is truly going on with his own body, like he's the Ichigo of One Piece, honestly, it's actually a net buff. So at this point in time, I'm willing to bet here that whenever Sanji in the future needs to go into solid snake mode, he needs a stamina bar.